You're at a dinner party. Someone introduces themselves. You hear the name. 2 minutes later, it's gone. You're in a meeting. The client says their name. You repeat it in your head. By the time you stand up to shake hands, you've already replaced it with, "Hey you." You're on a date. They tell you something vulnerable. You want to connect, but you're so busy rehearsing what you'll say next that you miss the moment entirely, and their name evaporates while you're still thinking about your own performance. Here's the question that might sting a little. What if your bad memory isn't a memory problem at all? What if it's a presence problem? You've been telling yourself you're just bad with names, that you're distracted, or getting older, or not trying hard enough, but that's a lie, a comfortable one, because the truth is harder to swallow. You're not forgetting their name because your brain doesn't work. You're forgetting their name because you were never actually there. In the next 18 minutes, you will understand exactly why your mind abandons the present moment, the moment social pressure enters the room. And, more importantly, how to reclaim the cognitive resources that anxiety has been stealing from you for years. But first, let me tell you about someone who sat exactly where you are now. Marcus was 32, marketing director, charismatic when he needed to be. In every room, he seemed confident, engaged, the guy who remembered details and asked follow-up questions. But Marcus had a secret. After every networking event, every date, every family gathering, he felt like he'd been running a marathon, not from the conversation, from the performance. "I feel like I'm watching myself talk," he told me. "Like there's a director in my head yelling, 'Smile, now, ask about their job. Don't forget the name, don't forget the name.' And by the time I focus on the name, I've already missed it." Marcus believed he had a memory issue. He tried mnemonic devices, association tricks. He'd meet someone named Brian and think Brian liked the brain, and then spend the entire conversation hoping he wouldn't accidentally say, "Hey, brain." Nothing worked, because he was solving the wrong problem. In 2019, researchers at the University of Michigan published a study that should have changed how we think about social anxiety forever. They found that people with high social anxiety don't have worse memories than anyone else. In fact, their working memory capacity is often superior. The problem? Their working memory is already occupied by themselves. While the average person uses cognitive resources to process external information, names, faces, emotional cues, anxious individuals allocate up to 60% of their working memory to self-monitoring, to the internal question, "How am I coming across right now?" Think about that. More than half your brain's real estate, dedicated not to the person in front of you, but to a surveillance camera pointed at yourself. Here's how childhood becomes your adult prison. If you grew up in an environment where love felt conditional, where you had to earn attention through performance, where emotions were monitored and managed, you learned to survive by becoming your own observer. You developed what psychologists call the third eye, a constant self-surveillance that kept you safe then but exhausts you now. That third eye doesn't turn off when you meet someone new. It turns up. And every watt of energy it consumes is energy not spent on Brian, on his name, on his actual presence. This is where most people get it wrong. They think the solution is to try harder, to focus more, to use more willpower to be present. But willpower is exactly what created the problem. The more you try to perform presence, the more you're performing. The more you're inside your head, the more you miss. The counterintuitive truth is this: you don't remember names because you're trying too hard to be memorable yourself. All that advice, about making eye contact, about active listening, about repeating their name back to them. It becomes another script, another performance, another layer of self-monitoring that pushes you further from genuine connection. Why doesn't self-love fix this? Why don't affirmations work? Because this isn't a moral failure. It's not that you don't value yourself enough. It's biology. Your nervous system learned that social situations are threat scenarios. And in threat scenarios, the brain prioritizes self-protection over information gathering. You don't need to love yourself more. You need to convince your amygdala that Brian isn't a lion. Here's what happens when social anxiety hijacks your cognition. You meet someone. Your brain registers the social context. Before you can process their name, your threat detection system activates. Heart rate increases slightly. Micromuscles tense. Your internal monologue launches. Make a good impression. Don't be awkward. They look important. By the time they say, "I'm Brian," your working memory is already full. Not with Brian, with you. But here's the revelation that changes everything. The goal isn't to eliminate self-consciousness. That's impossible, and trying creates more pressure. The goal is to redirect it, to shift your attention from "how am I performing?" to "what is actually happening right now?" This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about reclaiming the cognitive bandwidth that rightfully belongs to the present moment. Let me give you 3 specific techniques that rewire this pattern without requiring you to just relax or be yourself, the most useless advice ever given. First, the pause test. When someone introduces themselves, you will give yourself exactly 3 seconds of silence before responding. Not to rehearse, not to plan, just to let their name land. Most people panic at silence. They rush to fill it. But those 3 seconds do something remarkable. They signal to your nervous system that there is no immediate threat, that you have time, that survival doesn't depend on your next witty comment. During those 3 seconds, you will notice 3 things about the person. Not about their appearance, that's more self-monitoring, more judgment. 3 sensory details: the quality of their voice, the color of their shirt, the way light hits their face. This occupies the working memory that anxiety usually steals. It grounds you in external reality. And strangely, when you stop trying to remember the name, you remember it. Second, the cost audit. Once a day, you will track 1 social interaction and calculate your cognitive expenditure. After a conversation, ask yourself, what percentage of my attention was on me versus them? Don't judge the number, just observe it. Most people discover they're operating at 70 or 80% self-focus. Seeing the number creates something crucial: choice. You can't change what you can't see. And once you see how expensive your self-monitoring habit is, you start looking for discounts. Third, the safety experiment. You will deliberately lower your performance in 1 low-stakes conversation per day. Not dramatically, just 5%. Let a pause last a beat too long. Allow your smile to be slightly less enthusiastic. Say, "I don't know," instead of your usual clever deflection. Here's what you'll discover. Nothing happens. The world doesn't end. Brian doesn't walk away in disgust. And your nervous system learns through direct experience that survival doesn't require perfection. You might think this sounds good in theory, but your social situations are too high stakes for experiments. End quote. Your boss isn't Brian from the coffee shop. Your date isn't a practice run. I understand that fear, but consider this. Your current strategy performing perfection while missing everything is already failing. You're already forgettable, not because you're boring, but because you're not present. The experiment can't make it worse. It can only reveal that your survival was never at risk. And if you only did this for 7 days, something peculiar happens. You start catching yourself mid-performance. You notice the moment your attention pivots from them to you. And in that noticing, you have a choice you never had before. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. You're at a work lunch. A new colleague sits across from you. She introduces herself as Diana. Your old pattern activates immediately. Make sure you remember this. Don't embarrass yourself. Ask something smart. But you've practiced the pause test. You take 3 seconds. You notice the silver bracelet on her wrist, the way she holds her fork like she's not quite sure where to put it, the slight hesitation in her voice when she says where she's from. You say, Deanna, you mentioned you're from Portland. Did you find it hard to adjust to the pace here? Not because you rehearsed it, because you were actually listening. She lights up. She tells you about the rain, the coffee culture shock, how she still can't find decent sourdough. You don't remember any of this because you wrote it down. You remember it because you were there when she said it. 3 weeks later, you pass her in the hallway. You say, Hey, Diana, find that sourdough yet? She stops, looks at you differently. Not because you're charismatic, because you saw her when most people were just waiting for their turn to speak. But wait, there's a trap here you must avoid. The most common implementation mistake is turning these techniques into new performances. I've seen people use the pause test as a power move, deliberate silence to seem mysterious. The cost audit becomes obsessive self-monitoring about self-monitoring. The safety experiment becomes a new identity. I'm the person who doesn't care what anyone thinks. If you catch yourself performing non-performance, laugh. Seriously, out loud if you want. The laughter breaks the spell. It reminds your nervous system that this is play, not survival. I want you to remember a specific moment now. Think of the last time someone made you feel truly seen. Not complimented, not entertained, seen. They remembered something small you mentioned. They asked about it later. In that moment, you felt something rare, safe enough to be real. Now contrast that with how you usually enter rooms. The rehearsal, the surveillance, the desperate hope that you'll be enough. Feel the difference in your body right now. One opens you. The other contracts you. You have been choosing contraction because it once kept you safe, but you're not in that house anymore. You're not that child monitoring moods to survive. You're an adult who can afford to be present, and presence is the only thing people actually remember about you. Not your wit, not your performance, your presence. A year from now, you won't remember the techniques I gave you today. You'll forget the pause test and the cost audit. But if you remember one sentence, remember this. You were never bad with names. You were just too busy surviving to let anyone in. The question isn't whether you can improve your memory. It's whether you're willing to discover that you were always safe enough to pay attention. Here's what I want to know. When was the last time someone made you feel truly seen? And did you let yourself believe you deserved it? Or did you immediately start planning how to earn it again? If this question found a tender spot, that's the work. That's the recognition that your social anxiety isn't a flaw to eliminate. It's a signal that you're ready to come home to yourself. If you felt that recognition, the like button becomes something different than approval. It becomes an acknowledgement, a small act of presence in a digital world designed for distraction. That's what you're giving when you press it. Not validation, witness. And if you want to continue this conversation, next week, we're exploring why the people who give the best advice are often the worst at taking it. The psychology of the wounded healer. The invisible cost of being the strong one. If that sounds like someone you know, maybe you subscribe now. Not for more content, for the next piece of yourself you're ready to reclaim. I'll see you there.